es mejor manzana que patatas. Es obvio, pero por si acaso.
So we'll talk about just the basics, like an overview of what is nutrition. So you have type 2 categories of nutrients in nutrition. You have the macronutrients, which is the things that give you energy. It's what we eat. We eat food. We don't eat macronutrients, but it's broken down into that. And those consist of carbohydrates, fats, and proteins. So carbohydrates are the things that give you direct energy. It's what you eat every day, with you having rice, potatoes, fruits. Every kind of food has a certain amount of carbohydrates, except for fish and meat, which have very low carbohydrates but high protein. But carbohydrates is what gives your body glucose, which it uses for muscle activity and growth. So that's the main macronutrient. The next one is fats, which can be used as a source of fuel if you don't have carbohydrates available to you. And you can train that as well. If you train without having food, you can teach your body to burn fat as fuel instead of burning carbohydrates as fuel. But that's down the road. But you can use fat as fuel. You want to target to about 50 grams a day. We'll get into the breakdown later on. And the next one, which everybody's concerned about, is protein. Protein is made up of compounds called amino acids, and there are 20 amino acids, and 9 of those amino acids you have to get from food. 11 of them your body makes on its own, but there are 9 that you have to get from food. And all food, all plant foods and vegetables, fruits, grains, and everything have a profile of those 9 amino acids. Some are stronger than others. So if you only eat rice, you're going to be deficient in some. But if you combine rice and beans and fruits and vegetable and broccoli and those kind of things, you will have a balance of those amino acids. And those are what build the amino acids is what helps to build the protein, which is what builds muscle when you're working in resistance training. For a strength type athlete, it's between 1.6 and 2 grams of protein per day per kilogram of body weight. So for someone weighing 80 kilos, you're going to want to be taking in about 120 to 160 grams of protein per day. If you're working towards strength training and getting stronger and bigger. What is a complete protein? That's with the 20 amino acids, the 9 essentials that you get from your food. Complete proteins is very easy to get with combining your foods. You don't need to have one food that only has all the complete proteins. If you're eating a variety, your body is quite clever that way, and it stores and keeps the different amino acids until they're met up with the ones that are missing, and it completes or have a full protein panel.
Vale, los macros son nutrientes que nos dan energía. Vale, los hidratos de carbono son más importante para el glucógeno, la energía que está dentro del músculo, hígado y sangre. Vale, las grasas, si sabes hacerlo, es un poco para nuestro alcance de momento, pero si puedes entrenar al cuerpo a quemar grasa como fuente de energía, y no solo los hidratos que normalmente aprovechamos. ¿Vale? Y lo que están preguntando y pensando en la proteína, ¿vale? Proteína, los ladrillos, hay 20 ladrillos de proteína, los aminoácidos que hacen una proteína completa, ¿vale? Y las proteínas completas son de 20 ladrillos, de 20 aminoácidos, ¿vale? El cuerpo ya produce 11 automáticamente, los otros 9 tenemos que coger en la alimentación, ¿vale? Y estos 9, el cuerpo está más listo que algunos de vosotros, que se puede guardar algunos aminoácidos que consumes en una comida o un día, y prepararlos cuando vienen otros fuentes, otros tipos de aminoácidos para llenar, para tener la proteína completa más adelante. ¿Vale? So, generalmente es estos 2 gramos o 1,6 a 2 gramos de proteína por cada kilogramo de tu peso corporal. Si pesas 80 kilos, pues entre 30 a 60 gramos de proteína durante el día, ¿vale? O sea, about 30 grams according to the simulated time.
Yeah, give or take.
Entonces, más o menos 30 gramos que el cuerpo puede asimilar, puede absorber, ¿vale? 30 gramos a la vez. Si no desayunas, no te empiezas, si no comes bien, no vale la pena intentar meter 100 gramos de proteína en la cena. Y el cuerpo no puede aprovecharlo. El cuerpo puede absorber 30 gramos a la vez. Por eso es importante separar las comidas en cada 3 o 4 horas, un alimento de proteína para que llegas al final del día a estos 160 gramos.
Más o menos.
Más o menos. ¿Yo?
Yo quería saber, por ejemplo, si le comes una pechuga de pollo, ¿cuántos gramos estás absorbiendo de golpe?
Sí, hablando de preguntas y aplicaciones y cosas que podemos, lo miramos Gio más adelante.
Unas aplicaciones la peso de
una pechuga de pollo y a la noche entrecot, ¿es mucha proteína o
lo miramos más adelante. Sí, ahora no vamos a cada comida del restaurante de Giovanni. Sí, ahora hay mucha información ahora, aplicaciones y todo eso, que pones 2 gramos, qué producto es y te da cuánta proteína hay dentro. O sea, lo tenéis fácil, realmente, si os interesa.
And it's also important to understand that these numbers are not numbers that are exact. It's very difficult to know. That's a great question because it's very difficult to know exactly how many grams of protein are coming in unless you're taking a protein powder. And then you can really know exactly what you're taking. But how much is in a piece of salmon, a piece of chicken, how much is in potatoes or broccoli? It's very difficult to know the exact amounts. So you don't have to worry about meeting exactly 1.6 or 2.0 grams per body weight. Around that's a target, but the target is very movable. So you don't want to be eating, 1 gram of protein if you're trying to work muscle. You don't want to be eating 3 grams of protein if you're wanting to gain muscle either. So it's an approximate sort of window to get into, but you don't have to be worried about it being like 1 gram or 2 grams exactly the same. It's eating a variety and knowing that you're not going underneath or too high above, because that's complicated as well for your body.
¿Vale? O sea, hay bastante juego en ello. O sea, no hace falta saber exactamente gramo por gramo de cada cosa, pero sí es importante de caer dentro del rango de gramos, que no llegues a 1,2 o no estás a 3 gramos, que estás entre 1,6 a 2. Hay bastante juego ahí. Lo importante es que es.
And could be
sana y completa.
And could be one day you're a little bit less, and the next day you're a little bit more. It's over time. Your body is not something that is very strict.
Vale, sobre el tiempo también. El cuerpo es listo, que no depende solo un día sí, un día gano músculo, otro día no. O sea, durante la semana, durante 2 semanas, días. ¿Vale? Si un día vas demasiado, otro día un poco, pero generalmente durante la semana o mes te caes ahí.
Una pregunta. Depende la cantidad, o sea, los días que tú te controlas más, por ejemplo, la cantidad de gramos de proteína, por los días que tú haces deporte o por los que no haces. Es decir, claro, en realidad, si no haces deporte cada día, tampoco vas a hacer eso cada día, ¿sabes? Pero es mejor hacerlo el día que dices, vale, yo esta tarde tengo 2 horas de entreno. O es mejor decir, lo hago hoy que descanso y más, ¿sabes?
Yeah, it's not as important to do it like on a day-to-day basis. Like if you're training today, you eat the protein today, tomorrow you're off, and you don't, and then the next day you're training again, so you eat it then. It's more what they call periodization. So it's over a time. If you're doing, let's say you're in the preseason to when you're training, and you're doing a lot of gym work, you're doing a lot of resistance work, then you're going to want to be really strict with how much protein you're getting in and doing it every day. If you're in an off season and you're not training as much, or you're training once or twice a week, or you have other things going on, you can lower that number a little bit. You want to adjust it according to a period, not necessarily day by day. More for like a month or a month and a half kind of thing. Because your body, if you're changing it every single day, is going to be a little bit confused because it works over time.
So this 1.6 to 2 grams, that is when you're doing a lot of sport?
Yeah.
Or is that just kind of your relaxed thing?
That's when you're in training mode.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's for someone who's wanting to gain strength and size. If you're an endurance athlete and running marathons or ultramarathons, it's going to be lower. It's going to be 1.2 to 1.5. Because they're not so worried about gaining muscle mass, they're worried about gaining lean muscle and endurance, so it just changes.
Vale, so la pregunta era si es importante si hago pesas hoy, como un poco más proteína y mañana es un descanso y no lo como. Y contestó que es mejor pensar en como un periodo de tiempo, por ejemplo un mes o 6 semanas o 8 semanas. Si objetivo, por ejemplo, pretemporada, que es mucho más cardio, quizás harías un tramo de consumiendo, absorbiendo estos macronutrientes, pues un poco más hidratos de carbono. Si haces un mes o 6 semanas de más musculación, pues en este periodo consumes un poco más proteína. Eso más día a día es más por esto.
The last thing before we leave this slide is with regard to the fats. There's different kinds of fats. Some fats are healthy for you, and you want to be looking at those. They're polyunsaturated, monounsaturated fats that come from nuts and seeds and grains and avocados, for example, olives, that kind of thing. Whereas saturated fats, which are animal products, are not so great for your body. They will slow you down and create other problems that we'll get into later. And trans fats, which is like frying, fries, fried oil, cakes, and that kind of thing. Those are the ones that you want to reduce. The poly and mono, the natural food sources ones, are okay. So we'll get into that a little bit later. But the other part of nutrients is micronutrients. It's vitamins, minerals are the main ones, antioxidants, phytochemicals, and adaptogens. So vitamins are going to help your cells repair themselves and keep your body healthy. Vitamin C, vitamin A, vitamin B, C, D, E, K, all of those are vitamins. Some are absorbed by water, some are absorbed by fat. It just depends on which B's and C's are water soluble, the others are fat soluble. You don't really need to know that, but just minerals you have are the primary source of electrolytes, which keeps your body in balance and keeps your muscles functioning and your brain functioning. Things like calcium and magnesium and phosphorus. The main minerals are the ones that go towards keeping your bones healthy, and they're in greater quantity than the trace minerals like iron and copper and those other things. Antioxidants are things that you can only get from plants, and those are compounds that exist in plant foods that will help to reduce inflammation in your body. Okay? There are things that are called free radicals that, based on the amount of exercise you do and the amount of stress in your body or things that you're eating that aren't so good for you, they will create these free radicals. And the only way to keep those free radicals from damaging your system is by eating antioxidants. It's quite technical, but basically the free radicals create an open oxygen molecule, and the antioxidants come and latch onto that molecule to prevent it from doing damage. So, for example, if you're doing a heavy workout, the damage that you're going to do to your body from working out is going to be something that you want to counteract by eating some foods that have high antioxidant levels, berries, fruits, leafy vegetables, that kind of thing, that will help your body to not get too inflamed from the work that you're doing. And it's the same if you're living in a very polluted place, if you're smoking, drinking lots of alcohol, eating lots of bad foods. You can counteract that by eating things that have lots of antioxidants and trying to minimize the inflammation. Not that I would recommend that anybody smokes or drinks alcohol.
Vale. Entonces, tenemos los minerales, trace minerales, súper importante. Quizás algo diferente para nosotros es hablando de eso de los antioxidantes. Por eso es cambiando la nutrición para que se puede minimizar, controlar la inflamación del cuerpo. ¿Vale? La inflamación del cuerpo, o tengo hablando de free radicals, que es en español.
Tú cuando haces ejercicio, al final el cuerpo se inflama. Entonces, él lo que te está diciendo es que cuando, por ejemplo, al acabar el partido, la carne, que tiene también más radical libre, es peor que comer verde, que comer unos arándanos antioxidantes que te van a ayudar a hacer esto. Entonces, por ejemplo, uno de los problemas que pasa en el rugby realmente, que pasa a nivel internacional, es que está el tercer tiempo. Entonces, claro, tú a un deportista incluso que pasa en la élite, le dices, oye, ni bebas cerveza ni comas carne. Y un jugador profesional de BAF, porque el año te dicen los cojones, entonces lo que hacen es le añaden arándanos para intentar compensar lo que dice él. O sea, que si tú ya estás inflamando tu cuerpo, que al acabar de hacer ejercicio está inflamado, y tú comes peor, vas a estar inflamado, entonces pierdes esas 2-3 horas que pierdes la recuperación del domingo. Y si bebes alcohol mazo, como aquí no bebemos alcohol, si bebemos el sábado no pasa nada, esas 2 horas que pierdes el sábado, el lunes, estamos todos tiesos, se convierte en más días. Entonces él lo que te está diciendo es que al acabar el partido, para compensar eso que hacemos mal, pues comer antioxidantes. Yo he dicho arándanos, pero el primero se me ha ocurrido, pero hay un montón que nos dirán. More or less is what you said.
If you're doing damage to your body, if you're doing damage to your body, whether it's through sport or exercise, or by eating bad foods, you can compensate and offset the damage by eating things that are going to help you with that. And that's antioxidants and the phytochemicals, which are also in plants that can help to prevent disease and help to prevent damage to your body. So basically, the takeaway from this page is you want to be eating a variety of different natural foods, fruits and vegetables that contain vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, and phytochemicals. Lots of people take vitamin supplements and mineral supplements to compensate. It's not the same. If you're eating a whole food, it's going to be much more absorbable for your body.
Sí, o sea, esas cosas mejor comida. ¿Vale? Mejor comida porque si entras, absorción corporal es mejor, más rápido, es más completo con otros macronutrientes o micronutrientes que una suplementación de multivitamina y ya está, no hace falta de duda. O sea, mejor comida.
Mira, quédate.
Entonces, ¿es igual de importante los macro y los micronutrientes?
They're different. It's different. The macronutrients is the food you eat. The micronutrients are things that are in the food you eat. So, for example, what's on your plate is going to contain macronutrients and micronutrients. Macronutrients, to make it simple, is you count macronutrients in grams in a higher amount. You count micronutrients in milligrams. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because they're micro.
Exactly. So it's like a macronutrient of, let's say, for example, you're gonna eat a plate with brown rice. Right? The brown rice is going to be the macronutrient with some protein and some carbohydrates and a little bit of fat. Okay, that's the big thing that's going to give your body energy. Inside of that, there's going to be some antioxidants. There's going to be some vitamin A. There's going to be a little bit of vitamin D. It's accessible, but in small amounts. But the macronutrients is what gives your body energy to work with. The micronutrients is what keeps your body healthy.
O sea, un poco de la pregunta era qué es lo más importante, macronutrientes o micro. O estos minerales y cosas. Y realmente todo. ¿Vale? Comes los macros para la energía, pero dentro de este producto, cada cosa tiene su cantidad de micronutrientes y al final del día, mes, 6 semanas, estás consumes un poco de todo para cubrir los requisitos.
So the idea of nutrient density is that you want to favor the foods. You want to be trying to eat foods that have the most amount of nutrition in them for the least amount of calories. If you go down to the bakery and you get a big piece of cake and a milkshake, there's a lot of calories and not much nutrition. So you want to be trying to give your body what it needs to work with by eating foods that are high in nutrition with regard to the amount of calories you're getting. That's basically what this one is on. Examples of high ones is broccoli, spinach, cabbage, brown rice, quinoa, those kind of things. Low nutrient density is cakes, sugary things, oils, soft drinks, those kind of things.
¿Vale? Eso está hablando de la cantidad de nutrición de un producto. ¿Vale? Eso, la bollería, la panadería, el domingo por la mañana, ahí, samara, eso. ¿Vale? Se tiene muchas calorías, pero es bajo en nutrición. ¿Vale? La tasa entre nutrición, que está bien para mí, y calorías, muy alto en calorías, pero bajo en nutrición. O sea, la idea es intentar ir un poco más hacia cosas que son altas en nutrición, mismas calorías, pero calorías buenas que la cuerpo puede usar para recuperar lo máximo posible.
And so about calories, a lot of people are concerned with how many calories and what is a calorie. You don't really be, especially you guys at your ages, you don't really need to be worried about eating too many calories because you're active and you're working out and you're young. But it's interesting to know that not all calories are the same. Just like we were talking about in the previous page, if you're eating calories that are full of sugar and oil and salt, they're going to be not as good for you because of those things, not because of the calories. So it's good to know also that carbohydrates and protein have 4 calories per gram, and fats have 9 calories per gram. So, for example, if you say, okay, based on your body weight and everything else, and the amount of exercise you're getting, you can eat 3,000 grams of calories, or 3,000 calories per day, on just for a round number. Okay? You want to break those percentages down so that 60 to 75% is coming from carbs, 15 to 20 from protein, and 10 to 15% from fat. So the protein is easy to figure out because you know what your body weight is, and you multiply that times 1.6 to 2.0. Okay, so if you're 80 kilos and you want to eat 160 grams of protein, and that 160 grams of protein is times 4 calories, so that's going to be giving you like 560 calories, something like that, for your protein. So that's 20%. So then you can figure out the other percentages of fats and carbs based on that. And again, these are soft numbers. They're not specific numbers. And you can be, more or less within a time frame for those.
Is this just the weight of the actual food in front of you then? Is that what you're saying?
No, it's
percentage-wise.
How many calories you're getting from those foods. So if you're, let's say your intake, and that's something that we can figure out, based on your weight and your height and your age and all that kind of stuff, what your ideal intake is for calories, and then you figure out that of those calories, let's say it's 3,000, you want 65% to 75% of that 3,000 calories to come from carbohydrates, 15 to 20 from proteins, and the rest from fats.
¿Vale?
More or less, and again, those are approximate numbers.
Es importante saber que los hidratos de carbono y proteínas tienen 4 calorías por gramo, y las grasas 9, ¿vale? O sea, se puede comer 100 gramos de cada cosa, porque las grasas tendría mucho más calorías por 100 gramos que los hidratos de proteína, ¿vale? O sea, como dijimos antes de proteínas, si tú tienes que consumir 80 gramos de peso corporal, 160 gramos de proteína, ¿vale? Así puedes hacer la ecuación de saber cuántos gramos en peso de comida, cuántos gramos de proteína necesito, ¿vale? No entiendo, si comes pechuga de pollo no es 100% proteína, o sea, no es solo el peso de esta pechuga, ¿vale? Pero sabiendo cuánto proteína hay en una pechuga ya se puede hacer la ecuación con los arroz y todo eso demás.
And that's something that if you know, after this or at another time, if you want to work on that individually, we can figure that out and get an approximate, you know, window for things that you want to target.
¿Vale? Lo obvio es superficial, ¿vale? El nutricionista sabe hacer esto y cada uno explica lo que tiene diariamente de estudios, de trabajo, y si hace gimnasio o no, ¿vale? Y todo esto, el nutricionista sabe tener los gramos de cada cosa y controlarlo para tratar de...
So fiber that you get from food is going to be the thing that's going to make the biggest difference in your diet from anything. If you're eating foods that have fiber, which is going to be plant foods, fruits, vegetables, grains, beans, all of that kind of thing, that is what is going to work in positive form for your immune system, which is going to reduce your inflammation and give your body the chance to recover faster and to maintain healthy function. There is the high fiber foods are going to be, like I said, plant foods. The low fiber foods are processed foods like breads and white rice, for example, is more processed than brown rice because it's part of the fiber is taken off. So, you know, it's not eating only high fiber foods, but you want to have more high fiber foods than low fiber foods. And knowing that animal products, whether it's meat, seafood, or dairy, have 0 grams of fiber. So if you're eating a lot of steak and fish and that kind of thing every day, you're getting a lot of calories from food that has no fiber. And that is going to, over time, make problems for your digestion and create more inflammation in your body. So if you're eating those kind of foods, just make sure that you're eating smaller quantities and you're eating more fiber next to that to offset. Does that make sense? Yeah. Yeah. It's the most important. Yeah.
Entonces no es bueno comer carne cada día, por ejemplo.
Vale, o sea, yo también estoy sorprendido.
Ya, pero si tú comes 200 gramos de proteína, tú lo acabas comiendo.
Vale, va, escucha. Tenemos un límite de tiempo. ¿Vale? Que la fibra en la nutrición es lo más importante. ¿Vale? Si por vosotros, pues yo nunca en mi vida he pensado que la fibra era tan importante. Y ahora es lo más importante. Vale, estaba explicando por qué un poco para la digestión de cada cosa, para qué consumir todos esos macronutrientes si realmente no entran en el sistema, en el organismo, porque no tiene bastante fibra para llevarlo en el cuerpo. Ayuda a estas cosas para regular la sangre en el cuerpo, ¿vale? Obviamente la sangre manda todos los nutrientes a los músculos, hígado y todo. Y hay comidas que son muy altos en cantidad de fibra y otros que son bajos o cero, ¿vale? Son los altos, tenemos ahí básicamente de productos de plantas, ¿vale? Son fruta, verdura, legumbres, frutos secos, semillas, ¿vale? Otras cosas que ayudan mucho a tener gran cantidad de fibra. Obviamente también tendrán sus macronutrientes y nutrientes, ¿vale? Cosas que son bajos, como aceites, harina y zumos, que los que tienen nada de fibra, como productos de animal, como pescado, lácteos y carne, ¿vale? O sea, todo va junto, no puede consumir solo un montón de de carne para la proteína, mis 160 gramos, lo meto, tienes que entrar con una combinación de comidas altas en proteína para que puedas absorber esta proteína, para que vale la pena.
¿Y cuánta fibra tenemos que tomar al día?
¿Cuánta fibra?
How much?
It depends. It depends what else you're eating. And it's different for each person because, and we'll get to this I think in the next slide, what happens inside your body is partly genetic and is partly based on what you eat. So it's going to be different for each person. And I mean, fiber you want to be getting probably between 40 and 60 on average grams of fiber per day. The average person in the UK, in the Western, like the Anglo-Saxon world, because that's where these studies have been done mostly. In America, UK, and Australia, the average person is getting about 15 grams of protein per day.
¿Vale?
15. And you should be getting between 40 and 60.
¿Vale? Como el rango general sería 40-60 gramos de fibra por día. ¿Vale? Para que pueda hacer esto, para aprovechar la nutrición. ¿Vale? En donde hacen los más estudios normalmente son en Estados Unidos y Britania y Europa. Y en esos sitios donde hacen los estudios consumos por 15 gramos. O sea, un montón menos de lo que realmente tenemos que consumir.
Adding fiber to your daily food is going to help you maintain your weight as well. Because if you take fiber out of your food, then your body is having a harder time digesting it, and it's being inflamed, and all of the food that you're eating is being held onto a lot, and the calories are going to the wrong places. Whereas fiber is going to help your body process the foods, and it's not over time. You guys are probably all mostly in your 20s, yeah? Yeah. So between 20s and 30s. 30s, early 40s. So even if you're eating only the bad stuff now, your body's going to compensate and be fine. But when you get to be 40 or 50 or 60 years old, that's when the problems start to come in, because they don't come in all of a sudden like that. They come in from years before. So now is the time to start taking care of that. And for what you're doing as sports people, it's going to help you to recover more quickly and be ready to go and train harder and work harder at what you're doing. So that's the immediate benefit, but you also get huge long-term benefits with your overall health.
Por eso está diciendo si no consumes bastante fibra en la dieta normal, que vale la pena añadir fibra porque como he dicho antes, es lo más importante. ¿Vale? Por dar joven esto en los 20 hasta 30 quizás no hay un gran problema, pero cuando tienes más años, de 40 hasta 50, ya si no consumes bastante fibra, se nota más que no absorbes.
It takes time for those illnesses to come in.
Sí, no hay enfermedades que pueden llegar por falta de fibra, que no es problema para nosotros por nuestra edad, pero si llegará, se vale la pena tener un hábito sano ahora para el futuro.
The next one is on inflammation. So inflammation, as we talked about earlier, can be caused by exercise, it can be caused by injury, it can be caused by foods, and it can be caused by stress in your daily life. Your body receives the stress from those things in the same way, and it creates inflammation in the same way, not necessarily in the same places, but it will create inflammation in your body. So if you're having inflammation from outside factors or from the food, the things that you can control, then if you can lower that stress by controlling them a little bit more cleanly, then you're going to give your body a chance to recover more quickly and to avoid getting chronic stress over time and chronic inflammation over time. With regard to exercise and injury, those are things that inflammation is actually not a bad thing, because your body is learning how to deal with inflammation and how to heal itself. The inflammation from outside sources is not great because you're just putting more weight on a scale for your body to deal with. So as you're training and working out and being active every day, you're getting the inflammation that you need, and you're training your body to help feel itself. So you don't want to be putting more onto it, giving it more work to do. Yeah.
¿Vale? Me cuadrito rojo hablando de la inflamación, ¿vale? El cuerpo puede acostumbrarse a la inflamación de entrenamientos en el campo, fuera del campo, gimnasio, todo esto, y no está mal esta inflamación porque el cuerpo se acostumbra, se adapta, ¿vale? Pero la inflamación extra, si encima de esto tienes
like stressful situations,
como otra información superior de estrés,
relationships,
de estrés,
environment,
de la mujer, Base al ambiente, al ambiente, al ambiente, la polución, todo esto que estresa al sistema, al organismo, pero sin causas de inflamación, se va a intentar a controlar estos para que el cuerpo puede tratar con la inflamación de entrenamiento solo, lo máximo posible.
And the easiest thing to control is what we're putting into our mouth. That's why that's one thing that you alone are the one who decides what you're going to eat. So that's the one thing that you can control. Your environment, maybe not so much all the time, but the food that you're buying and ordering and putting into your mouth, you can control.
¿Vale? O sea, polución, medio ambiente no se puede controlar mucho, pero la comida sí. ¿Vale? Que cada uno, entiendo bien, ¿vale? Quizás Foro está dando comida de papilla ahí aún, pero ¿vale? Si cada uno controla lo que come, entonces es una buena manera de controlar inflamación, que no hay más inflamación external de comida.
So the inflammation, the source of inflammation comes from your gut, your digestive system, your small and your large intestine. And there are trillions of bacteria that are in your intestines, right? So the food that you eat feeds those bacteria, primarily the fiber that feeds those bacteria. So if you're eating low fiber foods and lots of sugars and lots of oils and processed foods, it's feeding the negative bacteria that cause inflammation, and that's what a TMAO is. It sends those messages to your liver, and your liver creates bacteria and compounds that are inflammatory for your body because you're giving it inflammation, basically. And if you're giving it healthy fiber and healthy foods that don't have a lot of sugar and oils and salts and animal products, then your small intestine bacteria and your large intestine bacteria are creating short-chain fatty acids which promote health. So basically, I mean, excuse my language, but you put shit in, you're going to get shit out. If you put gold in, you're going to get gold out. So it's basically what you put into your body is what you're going to get in exchange for it, health-wise.
¿Vale? Es complicado. Básicamente la inflamación sale de ¿qué es? Intestino gordo y delgado. ¿Vale? Dentro del intestino hay millones y millones de bacterias, ¿vale? Y esas se alimentan, ponte aquí, Jacobo, se alimentan con la fibra que metemos en el cuerpo. Si metemos fibra baja, mala como antes, o nada, ¿vale? Estas bacterias mandan mensaje al hígado, y el hígado tiene que producir o reacciona según lo que consumimos. Si tenemos buena fibra dentro, buen señal para el hígado, y el cuerpo puede controlar, ¿vale? el proceso de inflamación mejor. Algo así.
The important thing here is the lower amount of inflammation that you have in your body, the faster you can recover from what you're doing in your life. Hydration is a really important one, and I'll try and go not too deep into this, but just to explain the basics. Hydration is the water that you put in your body helps to eliminate the heat that you produce from doing exercise. So when you're doing exercise and you're in the gym and you sweat, that is your body releasing heat. Okay? Sweat is the water, the electrolytes that are in your body. So when when you're sweating, that comes from blood plasma. Okay, your blood has two things in it. It has plasma, which is the liquid part, and it has hemoglobin, which is the red blood cells, which transport the oxygen throughout your body. In order to transport the oxygen, those blood cells need the liquid to make it go faster and more easily. So basically, if you're sweating and you're dehydrated, that sweat comes from the blood plasma. So basically, if you're sweating so much and you're not replacing it with liquids, your blood is going to get thicker, and it's going to be more difficult to get the oxygen to the extremities, to your muscles, to your brain, and everything else. And the result is cramping and higher body temperature.
Vale, entonces es súper importante la hidratación corporal, ¿vale? Obviamente cuando estamos entrenando, sudando, los líquidos, el sudor que salen del cuerpo, ¿vale? Salen de sangre, de la plasma. Sangre tiene la plasma y los globos rojos.
Hemoglobina.
Esto, hemoglobina. ¿Vale? Y es importante si esa hemoglobina no llega al cuerpo con el oxígeno, porque la sangre es demasiado denso.
Si te deshidratas, la sangre se te pone densa y necesitas que la sangre lleve todos estos nutrientes y eso para que el cuerpo respire a tus extremidades. Entonces, si estás deshidratado, la sangre se pone más espesa y lo que hace es que te empieces a calambrar porque no le llega oxígeno a los músculos, sino es como que los músculos están hidratados.
And what happens when your blood gets thicker because of sweating too much without replacing the liquid? It means that your heart has to work harder. So you're going to have an increase in heart rate. Your heart rate is going to increase, which means that you're going to have less power. Because the more your heart rate increases, the less power you have. You're going to see this if you do extended times of cardio. At the beginning, your heart rate's going to go up. You're going to have tons of power. If you maintain a really high level of cardio after 15, 20, 30 minutes, your power and your endurance is going to fall off. So the harder your heart has to work to circulate the blood, the less power you're going to have physically to do what you want to do. So basically, in the next slide we'll talk about it, but you basically want to just keep hydrating throughout. You're going to lose sweat. You want to replace with liquids.
Otro efecto es que el corazón tiene que bombear más fuerte para mandar sangre que aporta menos oxígeno a los músculos. Porque trabajas más fuerte, tú no tienes el mismo rendimiento porque estás gastando esfuerzo de energía y solo que la sangre llega más que hacer la acción.
I think it was in this last slide, maybe. No. So what you want to be drinking is not just water from a water bottle. If you're sweating a lot and doing a lot of exercise, which you all are, you want to be replacing with electrolytes, which are the sodium, potassium, magnesium, calcium, chloride, and phosphate. Combination of those, and there's many electrolyte drinks that you can get or electrolyte tabs that you can get that will make sure that you'll be replacing those things. Because if you're not replacing those, that's what is going to help your muscles to keep firing and keep communicating between the neurons, is the electrolytes. Super important. If you don't have the right balance of electrolytes, then it creates problems for you physically over time. But that can be, I mean, and again, if you want to talk individually, we can talk about specific strategies to get your electrolytes in the right place. But basically, the electrolytes are what you want to be replacing, not just water from the tap.
It
Can totally be balanced with other nutrients. But if you're sweating a ton and you're playing a match, you're going to want to replace with electrolytes. Yeah, because you're losing a lot more than you would in regular activity.
So would you suggest like a pre-game and like a mid-game kind of electrolyte drink?
Yes, that's what I do with the rugby guys and the footballers. There's a pre-workout that is a little bit of electrolyte sort of preloading, and you can preload hydration the days ahead as well, just to kind of get your body used to circulating through that much water. But yes, you can preload with a pre-workout drink that has a little bit of electrolyte replacement, and then one that is just a rehydration drink that will keep your body basically topped up as you're going.
Half-time kind of thing.
Or halftime, or when you're subbed out, just take a few sips of it. You don't want to get to a point where you're too thirsty. Once you get to a point, and we get to that later on as well, but once you get to a point where you're feeling empty and you're flat, you've already gone into the reserves. So you want to keep drinking and keep fueling yourself as you go, so that you never get into the emptiness. You want to stay, sort of tank between half full and full, rather than half full and empty.
So if you have a 1 tab in water a day, then
Depends on your.
if we're doing exercise every day, which we most of us are.
It depends. It depends on how much you sweat, how much you're losing, what the temperatures are. If you're playing here at night, you're not going to be sweating so much. If you're playing a tournament at midday in Malaysia, you probably want to hydrate a little bit more and replace it with a little bit. It depends on each person, and it depends on your environment.
Vale. La hidratación no es solo beber agua, ¿vale? Es muy importante que recuperamos en estos líquidos que bebemos, que hay sodio, potasio, magnesio, lo que ves ahí en la pantalla, ¿vale? Puede ser con otros elementos que consumes durante el día, pero en el momento que estás jugando un partido, entrenando en el gimnasio o saliendo a correr y todo eso, es importante que estos electrolitos, ¿sí? Es importante que están dentro de este líquido ya, ¿vale? O sea, en el momento de competición que tú puedes recuperar, puedes preparar esto antes, preparar al cuerpo y tratar al cuerpo al día antes o 2 días antes, que hay bastante hidratación, que hay bastante electrolitos también, ¿vale? Depende también de la intensidad de competición y muchos factores externales también, como el tiempo, si juegas por la noche o durante el día, si es verano o invierno, ¿vale? Todo esto afecta cuántos líquidos y cuántos electrolitos necesitamos.
Can you do it? Can you have too many?
You can overhydrate for sure, because then your body's just flushing through things, and you don't have the ability to absorb it. There's like a point of what they call osmolality, which is where you get oversaturated and your body just flushes it through. And the under is where you're so under that your body doesn't know what to do with it. So you want to kind of maintain that middle ground. But the good thing is that things like snacks that you can have while you're at halftime or during trainings and stuff, like bananas are really high in potassium and magnesium. Dates are high in calcium and magnesium. So so those are foods that you'll see, like, I don't know, like you see guys, having a bite of a banana in between changeovers in a tennis match. That's helping them to get calories, to give them energy, but it's also giving them the potassium and the magnesium that's going to help keep that stuff topped up. So it's a bit of a mix.
Compramos banana para todos antes de cada juego.
Que cada uno trae su propio.
¿Puedes comprar las cosas?
Yo listo,
What time do you eat over 9 o'clock?
Five slides. 10 minutos? ¿10?
I can skip some stuff.
Jump, we'll skip some.
Yeah.
Saltamos en unas cosas.
So basically, this is what we just talked about: preloading hydration ahead of match, and making sure that you hydrate yourself after you finish training and practice. If you want to get into strategies of how much weight, how much you're losing, how much you're sweating, I can tell you that afterwards. But you basically weigh yourself before you work out, and then you weigh yourself after you work out. And 1 kilogram of body weight is equal to 1 liter of fluid that you've lost. So you can kind of calculate how much you're losing, and how much you need to adjust during your practices to keep a balance.
That's extra on top of what you should consume.
Normally, yeah.
¿vale? Sí, lo que hemos dicho antes, se puede preparar días antes o estrategias para estar hidratado, ¿vale? Pero lo básico es tener una báscula antes de entrenar o jugar, y después de partido o entrenamiento lo haces otra vez, y lo que pierdes, si pierdes 2 kilos corriendo pretemporada, las escaleras y cosas, pues tienes que consumir 2 litros de agua más que ya lo que tienes que beber. Si tienes que beber 2 litros normal, por un día normal, pues si pierdes 2 kilogramos encima, pues ya son 4 litros en un día. Es mucho.
The other thing that will affect a lot of your recovery is going to be the amount of sleep that you get and when you sleep. Ideally, you want to try to get between 7 and 9 hours. 8 hours is the sweet spot. And if you want to really optimize, getting to bed between 10 and 11 at night is optimal. I know it's very difficult to do. It's usually more between 11 and 12 or 1 or whatnot, and 8 hours is kind of a gift, but that's the optimal thing that you want to do. More sleep is going to give your body more chance to recover, and less sleep means that you're going to be in deficit a little bit more. That's all it is.
Por eso, el elemento más efectivo para recuperar es el cognitivo, ¿vale? Los que pueden intentar dormir, lo ideal es 8 horas, entre 7 y 9, ya por la noche, 10, 11 de la noche, si puede ser, ¿vale? La diferencia, un ejemplo de un jugador de NBA, básquet, ¿vale? Cuando duerme 8 horas, juega más minutos, más puntos, todo esto, y cuando duerme 6 horas, muchos golpes de castigo, muchos fallos, es importante.
So when you're the timing of your food before you go into training, you want to try and eat 1.5 to 2 hours before you train, and you want to try and eat or drink replacements between 30 and 45 minutes after. Okay, because if you're eating too close to training, you're going to have digestive issues and cramping because the blood is going to your stomach instead of going to your muscles.
Por eso, organizando el día un poco, cuando levantas por mañana, agua, 1 hora después de levantarse, más o menos, comer, antes de entrenamientos o partidos, 1 hora y media, 2 horas antes, ¿vale? Y después extras se puede, más cerca del tiempo, que se puede comer agua de plátanos o dátiles, así, ¿vale? Después de entrenamientos o partidos, lo ideal es de entre 30 a 45 minutos después, ¿vale? No inmediatamente después, porque la sangre aún está bombeando por los músculos que habéis entrenado y no queremos mandar a sangre hacia la barriga aún, pero 30 a 40 minutos después, ¿vale? Intentar comer 2 o 3 horas antes de dormir.
And fueling during your workouts, take, like we said, bananas and dates are fantastic. Anything that you are going to try during a game or during a match or during a heavy workout, try it before. Don't come into to play a game and say, oh, I'm going to try this today and see how it works. Experiment before, just to make sure that your body is okay with everything.
Eso, practicar, entrenar la nutrición, ¿no? Eso, practicarlo antes en entrenamientos, en gimnasio, no empezar una estrategia nueva antes del partido más importante de la liga. Pues ahora sí, voy a vigilar nutrición esta semana porque está a tope, está a tope. ¿Vale? O sea, entrenarlo, practicar, a ver cómo reacciona el cuerpo.
Foods that are going to help you recover, as we talked about, whole foods, plants, fruits, vegetables, grains, that kind of thing. Avoid supplements to recover. Use the foods instead. Like we said, eat an orange instead of taking a vitamin C pill. Simple. Your glycogen stores, which is the energy from the carbohydrates in your muscles, gets emptied when you're working out or playing. So you want to be replacing that so that you're able to go out and work out the next day and go into competition the next day. So eat high carb post workout, not refined carbs, not a big piece of cake and a bowl of ice cream, but eat some rice, some beans, some fruits, some veg, whatever you like to eat. After you're working out, eat the carbs first and the protein after, because carbs digest more quickly than Rugby. So that's what you want to do for recovery.
¿Vale? O sea, sí, para recuperar, mejor comidas completas, que son los granos y legumbres, frutas vegetales, ¿vale? Evitar suplementos de recuperación, mejor comida. La comida lleva mucho más que vitamina C, por ejemplo, mucho mejor comidas completas. ¿Vale? Para recuperar el glucógeno en el músculo, ¿vale? La energía, los hidratos de carbono en el músculo, ¿vale? Mejor comida alta en hidratos de carbono, pero no de hidratos de pasteles y patatas fritas, ¿vale? O sea, sano.
Preventing injury is something that you guys can really take care of, especially in a contact sport. So if you're eating foods that are reducing your inflammation to begin with, it's going to be something that's going to serve you over time. Don't just eat those things and take those things 2 days before you're going to get into a competition. You want to be having those as a long-term strategy. Like we were saying, your body doesn't work from one day to the next. It works over long periods of time. So the more you can train your body to avoid inflammation, the easier you're going to go into preventing injury for yourself.
Digamos que no está traducido, todo eso lo ponemos en los carpetas de club, para intentar evitar prevenir las lesiones. Y parte de esta prevención es la nutrición, que no es solo el día de partido, pero es una estrategia por semanas y meses.
Just really quickly about supplements, protein powders. How many of you take protein powders or use protein powders? Okay. How many of you are using whey protein or casein? Anyone using plant protein?
Peanut butter.
Plant protein. Yeah, like in a shake.
¿Alguien toma suplemento de proteína
Vegetal.
vegetal?
Antes sí, ahora no. Antes before. But again,
Before, yeah.
Garbanzo.
Yeah,
Soja
yeah.
también.
Soja is good. Yeah.
Soja, garbanzo.
And so just really quickly, the protein powders that are effective are whey and casein, but they will increase inflammation, and they can give you digestive problems. So best to avoid whey and casein.
So, los suplementos de proteína son efectivos en dar proteína, pero también hay mucha inflamación cuando comes whey y casein. So, la proteína normal que en nuestros batidos es huevo.
Sí, es whey.
Es whey. ¿Vale? Lo ideal es proteína desde planta. ¿Vale? So, garbanzo.
It's the cleanest and the most quickly absorbed as well, and will give you zero inflammation. So that's an alternative.
Es más limpio, se absorbe más rápido y no hay la reacción inflamatoria que da.
Anyone taking BCAAs? Okay, that's a case by case.
Aminoácidos.
You can get those through foods if you want to. They can be expensive and they can be kind of if they work for you and you like the effect that they have on you, that's fine. You can get the same things, the same amino acids through foods, and they can be expensive. So if you don't want to spend the money, you can get the same, because it's basically 4 amino acids that are put together in one pill, and you can just eat the different foods that have high concentrations of those amino acids if you want to change that. But if it's working for you and it's fine, there's no problem with it. It just can be a little bit expensive.
¿Vale? So, suplementación de aminoácidos, ¿vale? Se puede consumir bien, sin problemas, con comida. Básicamente son 4 que se meten en una pastilla, ¿vale? Estos 4 aminoácidos se pueden consumir con comidas completas que te da otros beneficios también, ¿vale? Pero si te va bien, perfecto, no pasa nada, no hay nada negativo, pero a gasto y no dejas otras cosas.
Anyone using creatine?
No.
Okay. Creatine, how much are you guys taking?
¿Cuántos?
5 grams a day.
5 grams. Okay, perfect. Creatine is a case by case, depending on how it fits you. Some people don't like it because it can give them digestive problems. Some people work really well with it. You'll see more gains in size and by virtue of size, strength with creatine, but it's case by case. If you want to use it, you can. If you don't want to, you can. So you may have to just drink more water.
If you're using creatine or whey protein and you're getting digestive problems because it's pro-inflammatory or you can, if you down-regulate it by having more veggies on your food or whatever, then it's not going to be bad for you, no?
No, for sure not. For sure not.
So like,
if you're having digestive issues eating the two, I would change the protein first. Eliminate the protein first.
What I mean is if you're having digestive problems by eating the two, is that probably you already have a digestive problem, like another inflammatory problem of another case. Get this problem rid of, or genetics is one, but
genetics is 20%. What you put into your body is 80%.
Okay, so I mean, if you're having protein, like whey protein or calcium, and you're having other junk food, then of course that you're going to get digestive problems. But if you have like a balanced diet, plant-based diet, basically with veggies, then you can have all that.
You're going to have less inflammation. But if you have the plant-based diet with veggies and everything else, and a plant-based protein, then you have zero inflammation from it. Okay. The plants and a healthy diet will offset the inflammation from the whey and casein. But if you take that out, then you have even less inflammation. Yeah.
Vale, so una estrategia para evitar la inflamación de los batidos de proteína esto es consumir mucha verdura y vegetal, ¿vale? Pero si la proteína ya es de planta, es mejor aún. ¿Vale? Son opciones.
Okay, and then we have two more and then just to wrap up. Sports drinks. You're better to make your own sports drinks than you are to buy like Powerade and that kind of thing. The thing that you want to get from a sports drink is carbohydrate replacement and some electrolyte replacement. So you can make your own with some water, some salt, and a little bit of maple syrup, or if you like honey, you can put some honey in, and that's your sports drink. Because it's not going to, then everything is pure. There's no artificial colors that make it blue or pink or orange, and those things are going to be really hard for your body. So you can make your own, it's less expensive, and it's going to be better for you. Okay, the same for the bars. You can make your own, make some dates, some hemp seeds, roll those up, or I have some recipes. If you're interested, I can share some recipes with you to make your own stuff. It's super easy and it's less expensive, and you can make it and play with the flavors and the stuff that you want.
Eso es muy fácil preparar nosotros mismos las bebidas en cambio de comprar Gatorade o Powerade o varios entran en la gama. ¿Vale? Es bastante fácil hacerlo nosotros mismos. ¿Vale? Tiene algunas recetas que puede compartir con nosotros. También las barras de proteína, recetas para eso. You get it later.
And just to finish, the bottom line of this all is try and eat a variety of foods. Try and avoid super sugary foods, super fat foods. If you decide to eat fish and meat and cheese and dairy and that, no problem. But increase the stuff that's going to make it not so hard for your body to do. If you're completely plant-based, great. If you're completely carnivore, you're going to have some problems with physically. You're going to run into some difficulties. So just find the balance that works for you according to your own body.
¿Vale? So, 6 puntos para resumir todo. La primera es eso, mejor en variedad de comidas completas. ¿Vale? So, evitando alto en grasa, azúcar y esto, mejor plantas, verduras, lo que hemos dicho antes.
And be flexible with yourself. If something works for you this week, stick with it and see if it works over time. If it doesn't work, then make some changes and see what works for you. It's completely individual, and it's changing because we're all changing physically and mentally. We're all changing as we go through life. So your nutrition and your needs and your desires are going to change too. So just be flexible and make adjustments. And if anybody wants to work with, you know, with getting stuff really dialed in, you have my number, and if you have questions or anything, without even that, if you have questions or things that you want to touch base on, you have my email, you have my phone, so get in touch if you want.
¿Vale? So, ser flexible porque la nutrición en nuestros cuerpos cambian durante el tiempo también, por edad y por estreses que vivimos. ¿Vale? O sea, si alguien está interesado en mirarlo realmente con un profesional, pues por eso básicamente yo como preparador físico en el Congreso no doy muchas cosas. Mi nutrición es individual. ¿Vale? No voy a dar una dieta para una persona en el gimnasio en Villanova a todos, porque es específico. Cada organismo es muy diferente. ¿Vale? O sea, mejor un profesional, ¿vale? O sea, ya tenéis número y esto, y cualquier pregunta, correo electrónico o llamada, ¿vale? Vive aquí en SItges. O sea, es fácil.
Thank you for your patience, and sorry for repeating in English. If we work one-on-one, I can do it in Spanish, but as a presentation for everything, it was a little bit more complicated. So anyway, thank you for your patience.
Vamos rápido. Entrenar, recoger, acción.